Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7:03 PM. This is the Genoa Township Board of Zoning Appeals. It is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. And we have two cases on the agenda tonight. Case 2023-15, which is an area variance for 10501 Hoover Woods Road. And we have BZA case, 2023-16, thanks. 7120 Temperance Point Street. And staff present, Susan Dorch and Paul Benson. And I will call the roll. Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
Mr. Christian.
Here.
And Miss Yu, Mr. DeRose, and Mr. Phillips are absent. I'll read this into the record, and this applies to both hearings. As is the adopted policy of the Board of Zoning Appeals, all applicants will be granted an opportunity to make their formal presentation. The audience will then be granted an opportunity to comment, followed by questions from the board. This policy was adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to provide for the orderly discussion of business scheduled for consideration. The chairperson, that's me, may limit repetitive debate. I also want it noted for the applicants that we do have a quorum. There are 4 of us. It requires 3 yes votes to approve an application, just so you know. A tie constitutes a non-approval. Okay, we will go to the minutes from the last meeting of November 28th and give you a moment to review those, and then I will entertain a motion to approve. Did I hear you make a motion to approve, Mr.
I make
Boone?
a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, any discussion, any revisions?
No, I
Anybody?
read through them. and
Okay.
They looked pretty good.
Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes of November 28th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. And at this time, I will, at 7:06, I will open the hearing for our first case. And I'll read the legal notice into the record. Brenda Frecka requesting approval of a variance to allow a new single-family residence currently under construction to exceed the maximum allowed building height of 35 feet at 10501 Hoover Woods Road, Galena, Ohio, 43021, currently zoned rural residential, RR. This is BZA case 2023-15, and it's continued from November 28th, 2023. Those that are here and wish to appear on this case, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Be seated, and let's see, we will enter into evidence exhibits A through D, which is the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report. And we will begin with Ms. Dorch with the staff report.
Thank you, Mark. So the last meeting, we still had not obtained the signature of the property owner, so we did receive that, and you all have a copy of that signature now. So according to Delaware County Auditor's website, the subject property was purchased by Brenda Fricka in July of 2021. On December 22nd, 2023, zoning permit 2021348 was issued for the construction of a 10,000 square foot single-family residence on the property. Prior to receipt of the variance application, staff corresponded with Mr. Dennis of Bob Webb Builders regarding a complaint that the township had received concerning the height of the dwelling. During that conversation, Mr. Dennis stated that portions of the dwelling did exceed the maximum 35-foot height, and consequently, they submitted the variance application that you have before you this evening. I don't have, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a whole lot to say, except if
Sure.
a motion for approval is made, staff would suggest that the motion contain language that limits the height variance to the current heights of the existing dwelling, excluding the chimneys, and that no other portions of the house can be increased in size over that maximum 35-foot height.
Wouldn't, question Susan, wouldn't the chimneys always be higher than the roof height though?
Yeah, they have like a 4
They're usually about
foot.
6 foot, yeah.
They have a 4 foot. I don't even think the code addresses chimneys. Other things, like architectural things like cupolas and things like that have like a 4 foot exemption.
Did we just implement a height requirement or revise the height requirement? Because this is like the fourth one we've seen recently.
The definition, how height of a building is measured changed. So
Oh,
it
I
used
asked
to
this
be-
before, didn't I?
It used to be an average of the elevation, the roof lines, and it varies depending on the type of roof line.
Sure.
But most, like gamble type roofs, it was an average. And now it's just strictly to the highest peak. So there's probably numerous homes in the township that have things that are slightly higher than
I was just
35
thinking
because
that,
they
yeah.
could have that average.
Because of the average, yeah.
So
Okay. So that's what's
it did
changed in
change
the code.
recently in the last couple of years. I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's hear from the, do you guys have any questions for staff? No? Okay.
Just for the record, we did
Oh, okay.
submit to police, fire, and maintenance. No one had any concerns, and we did mail to the adjacent property owners, and a new sign was placed on the property to notify of the new hearing date tonight.
You don't republish, you just change the sign, is that correct?
Yes, we
Okay.
didn't put out a new legal notice because the meeting was continued to a
Continued.
specific date and time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Susan, I do have a quick question. Based on the nature of the roof lines, do we know how much roof line is impacted in this case?
Kurt may be able to answer that question. I know he did give, different
Scenario.
dimensions here, so I'm not quite sure what the square footage would be, but he may be able to answer that question.
Okay. Anything else? And then I guess we might as well bring the applicant up. You can stand or at the podium or sit if you'd like, whatever's most convenient. Introduce yourself. You're the representative from?
Bob Webb.
Bob Webb. You don't look like Bob Webb.
Well, unfortunately, we lost
Just
Bob
passed
about
away.
6 months ago.
Did he? Oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know.
91 years, though. He had a-
How many?
91.
Yeah.
He's
It's
coming
not a
off
bad
second anal
run.
at the very end.
Huh,
He will be missed. I'm Kirk Daniels with Bob Webb.
okay.
And how we got here, perhaps it's because I measured the average. It's perhaps because I took the halfway up the slope, which is some ways some other jurisdictions will measure that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we are here. It's the third floor. It's a 500 square foot loft space with a bathroom on the third floor. And if you add up the numbers between the floor heights and the floor decks themselves and the ceiling heights, you're at 34 feet just to the ceiling of that space with no roof whatsoever.
Oh, I see.
So, I mean,
Did I see in here that it actually extends up, what, to 41?
yes, it's
Okay.
6 feet's the figure you're asking.
Okay.
Joe had emailed me back several weeks ago and said, can you add that to your application? I said, certainly, so.
Do we, and I don't know, this is for either or both of you, who reviews the plans? The county? Does the county review the plan, the actual plan for the?
For construction purposes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Delaware County would do that.
And so they probably don't know that we have a height restriction of 35 feet, and they said, send it? Is that?
Right, that would be something that, unfortunately, the applications at 34, Susan did not, at the time, the township wasn't asking for elevations. I see now they are.
How far along are you in construction?
It'll be done in April.
So you're 3/4-ish?
Yeah, it's been under construction about a year and a half. I mean, you can
So
see,
it's a high-end
it's a
construction.
10,000 square foot home.
10,000? Okay. Okay. Anybody? Paul? No? Jared? No? Dave? You're
The
the
construction started when?
engineer.
About a year and a half ago.
And it took how long before it was caught that the height restriction was in there?
Oh, a couple months ago, wasn't it, Susan?
Yeah, what caused it to be caught, just out of curiosity?
So the township received a phone call
Oh,
from someone who was, I'll say a complainant, but to say that they thought that the house was taller than 35 feet. And then we contacted Kurt, and he did confirm that, yes, it was over the 35 foot. But, I mean, we do now ask for elevation plans for the front elevation.
but 2 years ago, you probably did.
We were not at that time.
Yeah.
And we don't get building plans and add floors and all of that, so.
Is it based on the front elevation, Susan, or the worst case scenario of front and back?
I think it says the average front.
Oh, I see.
I think it's front.
I think it's average elevation, and I can tell you here, if you would like to know.
What does that mean average front and back, or average?
It's all at the front.
The
Because
front?
if it had like a walkout or something, it could be taller
Which
in
this
the
home
back.
does.
I didn't know if that meant side to side or,
In this case, the grade along the front of the home is fairly consistent. There could be circumstances where the grade slopes significantly along the front, but in this case, that's not the case.
So it's the vertical distance measured from the average elevation of the finished grade along the front of the building to the highest point of a structure.
Okay. It looks like there is a bit of it that exceeds it, doesn't it? When I'm looking at the left side, page are you on, Dave?
I'm on A 5.1. That's what this one is. Mark, the picture up here.
Oh, okay. I don't know, I can't They make it so I can't see that from here. Oh, so it's that little part there.
Yeah, the worst offender is that center section, as you can see, labeled at 41 feet between the two chimneys. And that is the location of the loft in that third floor.
Which is, here, let me see. Like I said, I can't see it from here.
Fire standard
So it's
before the
This
change.
over here?
Sir, yes, yep.
And also, all the circular roofs are higher.
Yeah, that was my point, is these are actually, okay, that's 35,
in the
but
end-
this is a little, this
And,
is
and
definitely
the end
higher.
caps are higher.
Yeah. That's what I was looking at as well. So, there's multiple areas that exceed 35, but like you say, the one is, the 41 is the biggest offender, we'll call it.
Mark, I think Jared has a question.
I do.
Oh,
Does this meet the prior standard now? Like how it's been changed from an average to a set amount? Does it meet the prior standard to now?
I did not make that calculation and
So like the average was 35, right? Now it's just flat 35. Okay.
so I guess your question, going back at it another way is, what, 2 years ago, would have met the standard 2 years ago? It sounds as though, and I don't want to put words in the applicant's mouth, but it sounds as though it was designed per the then standard? Is that or you don't know?
Well, it was 2 years ago. I was the one that did the application, so I'll take full
Sure.
responsibility for what
No,
was on there.
no, that,
But
you're fine.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall what method I used to determine that.
Sure.
Obviously, it wasn't the highest ridge because I could easily measure that. Who knows, maybe I measured there's about 8 pages of elevations. Maybe I accidentally measured another part of the building. Again, I'm only speculating at this time.
Okay.
It looks like, to Mr. Christian's question, if you kind of add up those numbers and divide them by how many peaks there are, I could see how it perhaps could do that. There's some sections of 31, there's some sections of 35.
Right.
Yeah, the majority being 35 or over though.
The question I have too is this the left side elevation on the bottom?
No, that's more the front.
I know,
It
but I'm
extends-
saying,
that
is this
extends
coming,
past here.
is this on this?
He's correct. It's over
Oh,
there.
it's
Yeah, this right
Okay.
here is
It's about-
attached right there.
Got it, got it.
It's too wide. If you scroll back down, please. That small drawing at the bottom, that's an overall, that right there. There you go.
Looks like a cutaway.
And does that say 37?
Yes, that's was my question.
Well, that was my point, is that
The- a
41
large
is the
portion of it.
biggest offender, but there's
Yeah.
multiple others that are in the crowd. Okay,
Paul, could you scroll back up, please?
this is finished living space here?
It is a loft with a bathroom, yes.
And is that the egress window? for
It's
that
not a
area?
bedroom, so egress is not required, but it is the window for the space, yes.
Okay. Is there a bedroom space there?
No, it's
Okay.
no closet, so it's technically by the building code of just a loft or a study.
Sure.
Is this where the structure is? It appears to be fairly well sheltered by what, a tree line? I can't tell, though.
pull up the aerial. so you can
Yes,
see-
can you
there
put the
go.
aerial on,
He's
Paul?
got it.
Oh, there you go. I was looking at it, but this is, because the structure's out here, it looks like. And then,
Yeah.
oh,
You're gonna
and yeah, you've
pull.
got a tree line here, so it's really, it's not really visible.
So, and the property owner actually owns the property to the east. So they own all of that land?
They own, oh, so they own this
They
as
own that
well.
also?
I see.
To
I
the,
guess there
to,
wouldn't be any impact on the neighbor because they are the neighbor.
well, today they.
Well,
they own
today.
the land,
True. Which kind of begs the question, and it really does, it's unanswered, is how does somebody complain about a height restriction when you can't see the thing from anywhere, it looks like? I don't know.
I would kind of counter that a little bit with, just because you own a significant sum of land doesn't mean you don't get to follow the rules.
Of course,
So just
Right.
because nobody can see your house because you have 1,000 acres.
right. No, I get that too.
Yeah, the closest home when I did my application is 750 feet away.
Okay.
And most of the neighbor is the city of Columbus, Reservoir.
Did we get any, the person that called in, did we get any complaints thereafter that,
We got one phone call. I think the one person called twice, and one time they spoke with Paul Benson, and I spoke to her also. She did not have anything derogatory or objectionable. I was trying to,
usually when we get something like this, it's,
her
blocking the
comment
view.
was kind of the same, was it's not, you can't see the house. And she said the only person who could really see this house was the people who got the variance off of Sunbury Road.
I remember, I was just thinking about
The
that.
one that had the tower.
Yes,
That was
The
the
elevator
person who
with the
called,
tower.
that was her comment, was no one else can see this house except for that house, and they got a
but we
variance
can see
also.
it, that's funny.
So, I don't know if that's true, that was
Right.
just her comment.
Sure, that's an interesting.
usually
comment.
when we get a question or a complaint, it's usually a viewpoint to
Mhm.
the water line or the reservoir or something of that nature. I was just wondering if somebody called in and.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, she did not express any kind of objection.
okay.
I
Let me
would
get
say
this.
that
Oh, go ahead.
excuse me, the location of the home is significantly lower than the street.
Yeah, because it slopes down
Yeah,
towards
so
the
I mean-
water, yeah.
Valid point, you know, it's blocking my view of the reservoir. If it was 10 feet shorter or 6 feet shorter, it wouldn't. It's significantly lower. The top of the
Do you know-
roof
do
is
you
well
know-
below the street.
Do you know what the slope is from the road back to the
If,
house?
if we can pull that plot plan up again, we can get a pretty good feel, I believe. There you go. And so that's like
Is that 940?
940.
940. I like it.
940 right there, too.
920 over here.
920 over here.
Right.
I think this is 940. right? It said this is all 940.
So it's actually about the same height, the way that topography is shown.
See that? See, look at those.
Might be 950, 960.
Okay.
So it might be about
It
20
goes
foot
down,
drop.
back up. Okay, that's what,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's a ravine, that's what it is. That's why it feels like you're going down. But, yep.
But how far back are we from the road?
Ooh. If that's 135, you can zoom out again. We're 1,000 feet at least. Because the roads clear up the top of the
About
page.
Three plus football fields. Wow.
Yeah,
About three,
almost a
three
quarter
and a third,
mile.
3 1/3 football fields.
Yeah, almost a quarter of a mile. So yeah, I can't imagine it's visible from anything. Let me get a little housekeeping out of the way real quick. Is any member of the public here and wish to speak regarding this application? Okay, hearing none. Okay, further discussion?
Guess the only question
ahead.
I would have is, based on the roof ridge that's over height?
Excuse me?
Based on the roof ridge that's over height,
Uh-huh.
do you know about how much of that roof ridge, based on the total roof, about what percentage of that roof is over height based on the rest of the
I've got
house?
a roof plan.
It's kind of a loaded question, but yeah,
I mean, if you could zoom out, that's the overall roof plan of the home. And that ridge goes from basically chimney to chimney. So if it's all right if I step up there?
Yeah, sure.
This overall footprint's about roughly 5,000 square feet. Roughly, there's 2 floors. And this piece here, probably gotta be 60 feet.
so we're looking at this piece. These three,
These are the round, that's the round figure. Yep. This is the ridge, it's the worst offender. And you can see, we pushed the roof, this is a flat roof all through here. Because if not, this peak would have been
substantially higher.
substantially higher, yeah. So that was an effort to keep it down. Unfortunately, we didn't keep it down far enough for the letter of the code.
So we're looking at these 4 peaks, these, and this piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
The back's all lower, but it doesn't, I don't think it falls into the calculation. But all these roofs from the front grade are within compliance. So it's really just this piece, and the ones you just pointed out.
Okay. Maybe,
70%?
no, I'm not talking about the roof. I'm just talking about the line. So it'd probably only be about
Let's see, oh, shoot.
25%. Based on all the peaks. Would you agree, Mark?
I didn't hear you.
It's these 3 roofs right here, or these 4 roofs right here,
Uh-huh, yes.
these circulars, and this ridge right here. So that's what's,
Well, it is,
You can just say, you know, you can specify per that plan if you want that to be in part of your motion so that you have it in the record.
yeah.
Um,
It's, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, whether it's substantial or not. Because 6 feet is not substantial. The problem is, or the real talking point is it's those 4 peaks plus the run, really, which is kind of the main house. And so,
I was trying to lay it out based on
Right.
the length.
right, exactly, no, and I knew exactly where you were
Yeah.
going. Because if you look at it in that manner, a lot of that roof is non-compliant with the current code. It's not, because it varies from 35 up to 41, and you got a 37, you got a 36, you got, and so,
But
in
based
that
on,
way,
the
it's
but based
substantial.
on the overall structure, the overall house,
Right,
it's not substantial though.
well, it's a big house.
Yeah.
It really is, it's a big house. And, you know, and then the other thing is too, is I'm sitting here thinking, this thing's been in construction for a year and a half. 1, 2, what's really the mitigating alternative? Are you gonna say, oh, make it all comply? I don't know that that's what we do here. It's not visible to any other structure. It's out on the water. I don't know how anybody can look at that house and say, oh, it's non-compliant, it's too high. I couldn't, I don't think you could find, if you took 100 people in this township at random, you couldn't find 2 that could tell you it was not compliant. I don't believe. Now,
Well,
you-
and that's why I was leaning towards the original complaints of whether there was a
Oh, yeah.
host of complaints.
Oh, yeah, that was my point when I said, it's a quarter of a mile in round numbers off the road. It's not visible from the road. Where does the complaint come from? Somebody must really not like these people. That's all I can.
We have someone who does public record requests and pulls actual plans from the county and does calculations.
Well,
So there are ways,
I don't think I don't think it's anything personal. It's just they do it
I'm
kind of
glad I have
across
other
the
things
board.
to do with my day.
Based on their background of their job.
Hmm?
Based on the background of their job and what they do, they just noticed it. It just stands out a little bit more to them.
They pull plans.
I think,
When we issue things, they pull plans from the county and do calculations.
maybe in the hope someday you're hiring, I don't know.
I think,
Okay, all right. Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I'll
Oh,
do
go ahead, Paul.
Duncan versus Middlefield.
Oh, good, okay, good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, really.
The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 606.09 to allow for a building height greater than the maximum 35 feet in a residential or rural residential zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. Obviously, a shorter dwelling could be built on the property, so that would be a reasonable return on it. The variance is not substantial. Again, not getting into the percentage of the roof that's over, but just looking at it in terms of a 4 feet variance, or sorry, 6 feet variance, that comes out to 17.14%. And our legal counsel last time educated us that courts hold less than 25% to be not substantial. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. I think that's due to the distance it is away from the street, the fact that the topography does to an extent slope downward, limiting the view, and the fact that we have not received a significant number of complaints on it. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. I think in the context of a building height, really the only governmental service concern would be fire access, and there's not a bedroom up there, so there wouldn't be a need for fire access for egress purposes. And the window from the drawings is below the 35 feet line, so it could be reached by a fire truck. The property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction, and that's just a standing interpretation of ours that it's public record, so everyone is knowledgeable about it or should be. The property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance. It would be a substantial undertaking to lower the roof height at this point in construction and not feasible at all, in my opinion. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. Again, the house being so far away from view and just the difficulty in making it compliant at this point in construction.
Okay. I think it's important to note before we make a motion, before somebody makes a motion, that this is one, I don't have a problem with these, but I tend to dislike them when they're asking for forgiveness rather than permission. However, in this case, I don't think it was foreseeable when this was in the planning process and in the plan approval process that this restriction was either in force or was going to be in force. Because I tend to believe, I'm going to believe that it was compliant with the prior zoning restriction. I could be wrong on that, but I'm going to imply that that was the case. And I think it's important to note that had we not had an inquiry about this, we probably never would have seen this or known about it, or the township wouldn't have known about it either. So that could be a good thing or not. So, going forward, I guess unless there's any other discussion, gentlemen?
I just add,
ahead.
the fact that we're getting the elevations now is going to
Oh,
prevent
yeah,
this in
that
the
should
future.
reduce it
Mhm.
substantially, because, like I said, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know we had the one on Sunbury Road that you were talking about earlier, and I think I know we had one other, which was cupolas on a garage, and we may have had one other application this year on height restrictions, and that hopefully will reduce, not necessarily eliminate it, but reduce this, because it's okay to have the rules of the game out there, but you can't change them mid-construction when you're, especially on a $10,000 or 10,000-foot high quality house on the water like that. So, my opinion.
The only thing that concerns me is if they sold the property next to it for
Mhm.
some reason, but at that point, whomever would be buying the property would already be aware of
It's there.
what's next door.
Right, it's there. It's not that it's not that it just it was
popped up.
coming,
Yeah.
it's there. So, but that's a good point. If we were still just looking at the plans, that might be another factor. But since the thing is 75% finished, I suspect if you drove by it and went down the driveway and looked at it, you'd see that the roof, and there again, I can't tell the difference from a 41-foot roof to a 35-foot roof. That's kind of what I do all day, but it's not. So,
Well, it basically, to the gentleman's point, that if the contour is waving too,
sure,
it's difficult to tell.
sure it is.
Because it's not just,
Absolutely
it's
it
just
is.
not a level surface.
Right,
Yeah.
if it's a flat roof or it's a peak. Okay, somebody want to make a motion then on this?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll make a motion to approve, Dave Boone move to incorporate exhibits, is it A through D?
A through D, yeah. Yeah, A through D.
There were no other,
No, I think the
Items
plans
to
and everything
include,
were
okay.
with the application, if I'm not mistaken.
so I'll move to incorporate exhibits A through D, as well as the board's findings pertaining to review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence, and to approve the requested variance from section 606.09 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA 2023-15. Application received October 31st, 2023, to allow for a principal building height of, I want to say 6 foot.
41 feet.
All total, 41?
Yeah.
Is it 41 total or
Probably better to
41?
go that way. It's 41.
0.7.
40, it's 41 even, apparently.
It's 41 feet, right?
That's what the
To
stat.
allow for a principal building height of 41 feet on property known as 10501 Hoover Woods Road, Galena, Ohio, 43021, zoned rural residential RR. This motion is based on the following findings of facts pursuant to section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, that such variance or modifications will not be contrary to the public interest because I think we've discussed that it's far enough from the road and back far enough that height, the additional height will not be impeding any nearby residents of any sort or viewing of any sort. The owing of special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship because if we were to disapprove of this, the discussion is the house is about 75% completed now, that
Under roof for
that
a year.
it
maybe
would
a year and
be,
a
it would be a
quarter.
hardship
I'm
if
sure you're
we.
doing your interior trim out and.
Yeah, it's so big, we'll build it in 3 phases. But basically, we're doing first floor, second floor, basement
Oh, uh-huh,
in, different trades are just moving their way down.
sure.
So the hardship would be that an alteration of the entire house would have to be made in order to.
Yeah,
meet the
redesigned,
criteria.
re-engineered, rebuilt.
Number
Sounds
three.
expensive.
Number three, the approval of such variance modification thereof is consistent with the spirit and the zoning resolution, and substantial justice shall be done thereby because, I want to say the house is far enough back, but the integrity of the house and the building structure and the landscaping and everything, it fits it's a very nice resident for the area, and it meets the criteria of the aesthetics of the community in Genoa Township in which we live in. Approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. Number one, all requirement permits, zoning and otherwise be obtained. Number two, pursuant to section 30711 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, the approved variance shall lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion of approval. I think that section has already been,
I don't think that applies.
I don't think it
does
applies currently. No, it's already been met. Number three, extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307.11.A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. That does not apply either. And number four, the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within section 307.11.A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. Is there any other additions?
I'll offer 2 more. So I guess it'd be number 2, since 2, 3, and 4 in the script don't apply.
2, 3,
Okay.
and 4 do not.
Right.
So number 2, this variance is limited to the current heights of the existing dwelling as currently constructed, inclusive of chimneys and any other features as shown on the construction documents in the application.
Yes.
Number 3, the 4-foot exceptions written in Article 16, Section 1616.01 cannot be applied to add any additional height to the subject dwelling.
Okay, hang on. Okay, we have a motion. Anyone want to, I'll second it. I'm here. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? No?
I'm good.
Good. Call the vote. Okay, Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Hanson,
Yes?
and the chair votes yes. The variance is approved. Come
Thank you very
see us
much.
on the front end and we won't change the zoning. This is the height requirement. How's that?
Yeah, it was never our intention to get to this point.
I
Obviously,
am sure it wasn't. Most people that are here don't necessarily want to be here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Hearings
Appreciate it.
are adjourned at 7:46. Okay. Switch over here.
Yeah.
Oh, this doesn't have, oh, here, no. Yeah, it kind of does, it kind of doesn't. Okay, we're going to call the second hearing to order at 7:47. And I will read if I have it. I don't think I don't think I.
Page
Ah, okay, there we go. Okay, we'll open the public hearing at 7:47. I'll read the legal notice into the record, and then those that wish to speak on this matter can stand and be sworn in. David K. Hollinsworth requesting approval of a variance to construct an accessory building within the required 10-foot side yard setback at 7120 Temperance Point Street, Lot 1472 in Highland Lakes, Section 1, currently zoned Plan Residential, PRD. This is BZA Case 2023-16. Those that wish to speak, please stand, raise your right hand. Have you sworn in? We don't charge extra, it's okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay, the legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on December 6, 2023 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on November 30th, 2023. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was made. We'll enter into evidence Exhibits A through D, which is the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report. And we will start with staff with Susan.
Thank you, Mark. So this subject property is located in Highland Lakes, Section 1. It backs up to the golf course there. According to the Delaware County Auditor's website, the applicant purchased the property in 1991. They are the original owners
Oh, wow.
of the house. Zoning permit W9242 was issued for the existing residence in April of 1992. Zoning permit 2009-238 was issued for the construction of a 7x9 deck in November of 2009. And zoning permit 2010-065 was issued for the construction of a deck and screened porch in April 13th of 2010. There were no other zoning permits found. Following several phone conversations with staff, the property owner determined that they would need a variance to obtain, to be able to construct the proposed accessory building in the location that they desired. As noted above, the application that you have before you was received on November 16th, 2023. They're requesting to encroach 5 feet into the required 10-foot setback for an accessory building. So Lakes is it's a planned district. This property has a front setback of 45 foot, a 50-foot rear setback for the principal structure and 12-foot sides. This is an accessory building, so the code setback for the accessory building is 10 foot. And I did have some discussion with the applicant about, because when I was looking at the documents that were submitted, it appeared in some of them that it may be attached to the house, but we determined it does not fit the definition in the code of attached. So it is, per our definition, it would be a detached accessory dwelling. And we did our normal mail to the adjacent property owners, place the notification sign. The application did go to police, fire, and maintenance. No one had any concerns. And to my knowledge, we did not get any, or I think maybe late today, We have an inquiry, like today, somebody asked to see the plan, or was that something else? I didn't get one. Okay. So we did not receive any phone calls or inquiries about the application,
Okay.
and nobody's here.
What?
I said it, nobody's here, so.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would indicate. Do you know the distance between, the structures?
Oh, they're neighbors?
Yeah.
I think she did put that in there, though.
So basically, oh, you know what? Before we go there, let's hear from the applicant. If you want to, you can come up to the podium or the table, either one. And,
This is Meredith. This is all about Meredith.
okay,
Meredith is 33.
okay.
And obviously cannot move on herself, on her own. And as she became older and we became older, transportation becomes a problem.
Sure.
And so we have always had a
Oh,
small.
here, if you get your microphone right there.
Do I have to-
Thank you.
Yes, you're being recorded.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
So
It's all good.
basically, our story is Meredith has to be moved every couple of hours or she gets bed sores. So we no longer are like, if we go somewhere for an hour or two, we have to come right back home and take her out of her chair,
Uh-huh.
which is not very much fun. When she was younger, we could take her out and lift her. Well, we can't do that anymore. We're
Yeah.
a little bit getting up there to do that. So we bought a high roof Sprinter that has a ceiling track in it. It's actually a hydraulic lift, just like we have in our house. So when she's in that car, that high roof Sprinter, we have a sling, and it has to be 6 foot tall because it has to have enough height to lift her up. And there's a back bench, so we can be somewhere more than 2 hours away from our home, and then take her out in the community and lift her up and lay her down on the back bench and get her out of the chair and do what we need to do, and then get her
Yeah.
back in the chair.
Oh, wow, okay.
So now we have this, it's like the size of an Amazon delivery truck.
Yeah,
Think of it
yeah, I
as.
saw
a
that
truck.
picture.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
that's
beautiful,
right.
yeah.
And so now we have to park it somewhere and use it. And I gave you pictures and things, and it's really hard to store it and use it. We have to load her in the street right now
Oh, yeah.
because our driveway is sloped and the lift doesn't deploy on the side because of the hydraulics. It gets stuck
Mhm.
because it has to go up and down, or if you park it the other way, it doesn't have enough strength to lift it back up. So we park in the street in front of the fire hydrant, which is not necessarily good, because that's where our
Don't
car,
tell 'em that.
no, but I mean, actually, no, I've talked to, well, I mean, we're out there with her, so that's how we have to take her in and
Sure.
out. So the idea is that we can't use just our little van if we want to go somewhere than 2 hours. So then it brings up, what do we do with this thing? So we have to build this big garage to put it in, and it has to be tall and wide enough. So we have to have a 10-foot wide door to get the 93.3 inch or whatever width of this vehicle in, and then there's the side load lift. So this was the whole intention of bringing our car, our vehicle on property, so we can use it with her and go out in the community and be involved.
And how wide is the structure then? 13, 14
Structure?
feet?
Okay, so the structure internal is 15.5 feet.
Okay, so you're about 16-ish.
The
External.
Exterior is 17.
Oh,
And
17, okay.
Exterior.
Uh-huh.
And the actual vehicle, where was I? I had that somewhere. Well, anyway. Oh, the vehicle, the width of the vehicle is 93.3 inches, which is 7.7 feet, and then we have to have the ramp out to the side.
Okay.
So we made this really tight. We really need wider. I mean, it would be nice to have wider, but we can only go so wide, right? So we tried to make it as functional as possible, but not, I mean, you know, the minimum amount we needed
Yeah,
is what I'm trying
sure,
to get through.
okay. And you currently have a 2 or 3 car garage attached?
We have a 3-car garage
Three-car.
that's a side load.
Okay,
So those other 2 windows. And it's not high roof, and it's not deep enough, because we actually have a ramp inside the garage. So
Uh-huh.
part of we can't have really big cars
Right.
because we take
Oh,
up,
because of the ramp.
the
Yeah,
ramp takes
sure.
up, like I pull up in front of my cars, the ramp
Yes.
into the house.
The house
Okay.
was designed to be handicap accessible
Right.
without looking like.
We
it's
built it
handicapped.
Yeah,
from scratch,
okay.
like we started with this.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I designed the whole thing.
Wow, okay.
Well, the architect did it, but I mean, I came up with everything.
Yeah,
And we've and so it's been great, right? You don't really, it doesn't look like a handicap house. And we don't want it to look like a handicap house.
Right.
And we didn't want this garage, we wanted it to look original.
Mhm.
So we have an all brick house, we have a hip roof. So we wanted it to maintain the character of the neighborhood. We did not want it to look like, a barn or whatever.
Of
You know,
course.
We wanted it to look nice, to fit like the house,
uh-huh.
to look like it's just architecturally, like it was original.
Now, have you gone to the homeowners association?
Yes, we have an approval.
And you've got approval?
We did, actually, they came out, they were very, a man, actually, one of the board actually drove
Yeah.
out, and he said,
I walked it with him.
Yeah,
yeah, no, they said yes.
And before we did that, we went to the neighbors
Yeah, our neighbors.
sure.
and
So
talked
it's-
to them about it.
It's actually right where the driveway is now.
Right,
width of it is-
basically, you're gonna cover that driveway.
Yes, and right now we
Yeah.
have big trees there, we're just taking out the pine trees and just inserting it.
Okay. Okay.
So Mark, just for the record, they didn't
Yes.
say who they were.
Oh,
so
right.
Just
oh,
so
right.
people
Yeah,
know
introduce you. I'm
who's
sorry.
talking.
Yeah.
We got going here.
I'm David Hollingsworth, I'm the
Okay.
property owner.
Sure.
This is Patty Hollingsworth, my wife, and our
And
daughter Meredith.
Yes,
Meredith,
sorry, we
okay.
just started talking,
Yeah,
so.
Okay,
thank you.
that's fine.
So I
We're-
don't know if that kind of explains our story.
No, I
So
think
that's-
I've had, I've had other presentations that weren't as thorough. I'm gonna get a little housekeeping out of the way here. If there's any member of the public, and I see none that wish to speak on this application, there are none in the room, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. You guys have any questions? Paul, Christian, Jared, or Dave? No?
Not yet,
Not yet?
not yet.
Okay.
I'm good right now.
Because, okay,
I
well,
guess one
go ahead,
question I have.
Dave. You're-
You have a breezeway noted there. How big is the breezeway?
It's like,
How
The portico-
wide is the breezeway?
How wide? 5 feet?
5 feet.
5.56.
Okay. Sorry, I
oh, you're
rounded
that
it.
guy.
on the question about the distance to the neighbor's house,
Uh-huh.
looking at that map, it's probably, if I can read that map right, it's probably from the edge of the driveway to their house is probably 25 feet.
Oh, okay.
I didn't measure it. No, I know, I'm sorry. I should have
Thank
measured
you.
it.
No,
Yeah.
but
No, I didn't.
anyway, it's about 25 feet.
Okay.
Because most people think that side yard's mine because I end up taking the leaves off of it and all that.
Lucky you.
Yeah, well, it's a solid brick wall on their house, so they really don't look out at anything.
They don't have,
On
they don't
that
have a
side.
window over there at all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got that.
So it's about 20, 25 feet.
Okay,
Just back to your original question.
okay. You got a circular driveway, okay. All right, Mr. Boone, you got any questions?
I don't.
You
I
don't?
think it's pretty straightforward.
Somebody like to go through Duncan versus Middlefield? Because I have nothing.
So when per your earlier conversation, we are asking for permission, forgiveness.
Yes, I'm pretty aware. You know, 2 beers over at Gianmarco's, I'll give you some real horror stories.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
I've been on this board a long time, and one of the first cases was a permission one that a forgiveness one that I really hated. You want a Duncan versus Middlefield, or I can do it, or you?
I could do Duncan
Okay.
versus Middlefield.
I'm not trying to force you into it.
So Duncan versus Middlefield. The board reviewed section, I think I'm on the right page, yes. The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield as it pertains to an area variance requested from section 1609.01.b to allow for an accessory building to encroach into the side yard setback in a planned residential zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be a beneficial use of the property without the variance. And that's just for the fact that there's current use of it now, that it's being well used today, that there could be a beneficial use. I would say, I didn't do the math here, but it's 50%. Yeah, the variance is substantial for the fact that it's 50% from, 10 foot, going 5 foot into the 10-foot setback. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. The property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. The property owner's predicament, I would say here, cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance, just for the fact of I'm just going to say the size of the van, the weather conditions for the van, the ramp, and things of that nature to do, to be able to be outside of the weather, the elements, and those situations. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed, and substantial justice would be done by granting this variance. Okay.
You want to?
Any discussion? I can.
Is there any discussion? Anyone? Want to turn that into a motion?
I can.
Here, while you're looking for your motion, I'll make one comment that I think is important to note, that I believe that this application is totally reasonable, and it doesn't change the characteristics of the immediate neighborhood or the neighborhood in general. And I think it is reasonable, especially as the residents, and myself included, the residents Gray. I've lived here 24 years. I almost had hair when I moved here. And I think it's that at some point, we're going to find ourselves making reasonable accommodations to the residents. And I think this is extremely reasonable.
Thank you.
So,
Compared to some of the things that we've dealt with in the past. This is,
yeah, that's
easier.
another discussion I don't want to have.
I'll meet you at Giamarco's.
Yeah, I'll see you over there.
Okay. Dave Boone moves to incorporate exhibits A through D, as well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence, and approve the requested variance from sections 1609.01.b of the Genoa Township zoning resolution from BZA 2023-16, application received November 16, 2023, to allow for the accessory building to encroach 5 feet into the left side setback on property known as Lot 1472 in Highland Lake, Section 1, 7120 Temperance Point Street, Westerville, Ohio 43082, Zone Planned Residential District, PRD. This motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to Section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, that such variance or modifications will not be contrary to the public interest because I believe it's already been mentioned that we're not, next door neighbors is a brick facade. This is going to be a brick facade also, that there's no it is encroaching a little bit closer to the next door neighbors, but there is nothing there that's going to impede on the next door neighbors. That owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship because by not granting this, it's basically, I think we've all decided that it's basically a hardship if we did not grant this for the fact that it's very difficult to handle the vehicle in conditions, elements outside, the handling of your daughter with those conditions. It makes it so much nicer to be inside and to deal with the situations at hand. And the fact that the vehicle is necessary for the size of that vehicle, the ability to park it in a nice location versus being outside all the time. Number 3, that the approval of such variance or modification thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution of substantial justice shall be done thereby because, again, it's the same situation. We would be granting this based on being able to park the vehicle inside, getting it off the street, being closer to the home, being direct access to the doors and the house itself. Approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. Number 1, all required permits, zoning, or otherwise be obtained. Number 2, pursuant to section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, the approved variance shall lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion being approved. Number 3, extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307.11.A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. Number 4, the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within section 307.11.A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. And do we need to add anything else? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Don't think so. I'll second your motion. Any discussion? Anybody? Anything? And I'm gonna call the vote. Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Variance is approved.
Thank you.
Hopefully you've got a contractor and you've got,
She's got everything.
of course.
I own the property, she managed.
There you go. I call my wife my home manager.
Yeah,
So, and
Yeah.
anything that gets done, they have to go through her.
she's in charge.
Yeah, I'm with
We've
you.
been working with a contractor, but we just.
Good.
We've been
Yeah.
making sure everything gets approved before we.
Oh,
proceed, right?
absolutely. Yeah, see, there's that, up front.
That's that
Permission.
thing again. Right.
Okay, meeting, or the hearing's adjourned. Thank you,
Merry
guys.
Christmas, guys.
Thanks for hanging out. I know the other one was a little long, so,
Appreciate
thank you.
your guys' service too.
Okay. All right, without any other business, I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the year. Motion by Mr. Christian.
I'll second.
Seconded, not everybody would. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.